Welcome to another edition of the Daily Crow. I'm Chris Phillips of the Spurs Up Show, coming to you live. Going to talk about the Gamecocks defensive ends in 2019, because it continue the position unit preview for you guys, talking about the Gamecocks defensive ends heading into this 2019 season. Before we get into all that, this is a broadcast presented to you by our friends over at SeatGeek. SeatGeek, the best ticket buying app by far, the only ticket buying app I use, and the only one that I recommend. SeatGeek's got tickets to literally anything and everything. You guys hear me talking about it a bunch. If you need your Gamecocks football tickets, if you're going to the game in Charlotte, the first home game against CSU, the Bama game, whatever you need, they're going to have your tickets for you there. Go download the SeatGeek app or go to SeatGeek.com. Use the promo code SPURSUP. You're going to get $10 off your first purchase. I mentioned all the Gamecocks football tickets you can buy. They've also got tickets to anything and everything else you can think of, whether it be NFL, NHL, NBA, concerts, comedy club events. It doesn't even have to be sports. They've got your tickets there for you. They've got a great ticket rating system where they rate the tickets for you based on the type of deal you're getting as well. So SeatGeek really, they do all the work for you, because they tell you if you're getting a good deal, if you're getting a steal, if you will. They tell you if you're getting ripped off. They really help you get the most bang for your buck and save the most money, as much money as you possibly can. So again, it's our friends over at SeatGeek. I implore, especially if you need your Gamecocks football tickets, use our friends at SeatGeek. Save $10 in the process. If you've already got a SeatGeek account, you're saying, Chris, how do I use it on my first purchase when I already have an account? Simple. Download SeatGeek. Go to SeatGeek.com. Create a new account with a new email. You can use the promo code, then it's SPURSUP, S-P-U-R-S-U-P, to save $10 off your first purchase. All right, like I said, appreciate you guys tuning in. Going to continue the position unit preview series, talk about the Gamecocks defensive ends heading into 2019. First, I want to say thank you to all you guys for bearing with me this week. This has been a crazy week. I'm in my sort of home studio right now, the very first Daily Crow from the headquarters in Columbia, South Carolina, but obviously it's a little bit janky right now. Nothing is set up. I have boxes all over my place, and just had to throw the flag up and get the Daily Crow in. You got to get it done no matter what. So appreciate you guys bearing with me this week. Obviously it's been very hectic and probably will continue to be a little bit hectic throughout the end of the week, but it's all right. We're going to manage. So like I said, let's get the defensive ends. Looking back at 2018, Gamecocks, specifically the defensive ends. This stat is for the entire defensive line and Bucks and everyone else, but 26 sacks a year ago by the Gamecocks defense. Overall defense that improved on its sack numbers from a year ago. The Gamecocks not really losing a ton of guys. I know a guy like Shameik Blackshear transferred. But you return basically everybody and add some nice pieces in 2019 as well. Let's meet the defensive ends. You've got senior Keir Thomas, which we know is a guy who can slide in and out. Junior Aaron Sterling, redshirt junior Griffin Gentry, sophomore Kingsley J.J. Enigbare, redshirt junior Jazoon Outlaw, redshirt freshman Tyreek Johnson, and freshman Joseph Anderson. The weird thing about the defense, guys, and I've said this before, I believe, is that defense is kind of weird to break down in the sense a lot of these guys can play a lot of different positions. So you hear me say a guy like Keir Thomas, and people say, is he not an inside player? Is he outside player? He can play multiple positions, so I'm going to talk about him in multiple positions or where he's most likely to play. I think he'll be playing on the outside just simply because of Keir's weight. I think he's a lighter kind of guy. He can slide inside, but I think that Keir Thomas will be a defensive end. To me, the most to prove out of this group is going to be sophomore Kingsley Enigbare. I think a guy who was thrust into action a year ago, same as Rick Sandage. Really, those were the main two guys, in my opinion, that were really thrust into action. Probably earlier than they should have been. Will Muschamp has talked about repeatedly over and over again that he thinks it's going to be a huge advantage in this year. It's really going to pay off for those guys. And those reps they got a year ago, maybe sort of taking their licks and taking their beatings as a true freshman, is really going to pay off and pay dividends for South Carolina this year. A guy like Kingsley Enigbare, to me, is a guy, can he burst on the scene? If the Gamecocks, even with last year with the sack numbers getting better, the Gamecocks are still looking for their first true feared pass rush threat since Jadeveon Clowney. I don't know the Gamecocks have really had one that you can look at and say, we are scared of that guy. Now, I think DJ Wanham could have been that guy a year ago without him having an injury, and you guys may wonder, why am I not talking about DJ Wanham? DJ Wanham is a buck, which I'll obviously get to him when I break down Bucks next week. But I think Kingsley Enigbare is a guy, simply put, I think he can have a big impact. I love his size, love his speed, love his athleticism. Very, very athletic guy off the edge. A guy South Carolina and everyone else was very high on the recruiting trail. Again, got to play a lot last year, I think a little bit early, but I think the licks he took a year ago could pay off, and he could have a huge year for South Carolina. To me, best overall, it's the senior Keir Thomas. And this is one where, I'm very intrigued to see. He's the best overall, but he may be the most important for Carolina as well, because Will Muschamp talked about his 5 seniors up front in the front 7 and the defensive line specifically. And Keir Thomas is certainly one of them. Keir Thomas is a guy that needs to have a big year for Carolina. Keir Thomas sort of reminds me of a Dante Sawyer type. just because of the simple fact that Dante Sawyer was a guy, and it was the same rhetoric going into 2019 that Will Muschamp said over and over. These guys need to have a big senior year. It was Taylor Stallworth, Ulrich Jones, Dante Sawyer. And Dante Sawyer had a fantastic 2017. I think he had 5 forced fumbles, which led the country. The Gamecocks need something similar from Keir Thomas. They need a big-time performance from Keir Thomas, him to save his best for last in garnet and black and really step up this season and be a guy that really, again, explodes as a senior and is a leader on that defensive front. To me, the season will be successful if, and again, this stat sort of encapsulates the entire defensive line and the entire defense, if you will, and I'm going to throw it on the defensive end. 30-plus sacks in 2019. We've talked about all offseason, the depth on defensive line. We've talked about the athleticism, how athletic this defense is, how deep they are. Now they got to go do it. Now they got to go on the field and prove it and show that they're improved from a year ago. They can get to the quarterback, and that's just something that every great South Carolina defense, every great defense South Carolina has fielded has been able to get to the quarterback. You've got a ton of great guys and talented guys in the secondary. If you can't get to the quarterback, it does not mean shit for you. So these guys have got to step up, in my opinion, not just the defensive ends, but everyone involved. But it'll be a lot on the defensive ends if the Gamecocks can get a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, force bad throws, force interceptions. I think hit that 30-sack number, and you're going to have a really, really good year. Which player leads the team in sacks? I don't think they're on this list. I think it will be DJ Wanham, but that's another conversation, like I said, next week when we break down the Bucks. But overall, 30-plus sacks for this unit and the entire defense, to me, should be the goal, and I think that would be a successful season for this defense. Overall grade for the defensive ends, I give them a B-. It's funny, I was looking back a year ago. I gave that same unit a B- as well. I think this one very much compares to it. I think it could be even better just because you look at a guy like Joseph Anderson, who I think could play early as a freshman. You look at a guy, Tyree Johnson, coming back from injury that could have an impact. You look at a guy like Kingsley Nibari, like I mentioned, that could be due for kind of a breakthrough season, if you will. You look at a guy like Keir Thomas in his senior year. You look at a guy like Aaron Sterling that I didn't talk about a lot that I think could be a big-time impact player who does play multiple. He does play buck as well. I know, again, these guys are all over the field. So I like B- for this group. They're right on the cusp of being good, or they're good right on the cusp of being above average. They got to go on the field and prove it, though. And I think the Gamecocks, again, all over the defensive line, all over the defense, but the defensive end position are set up in a position to have as much success as they had in quite a while. Again, I don't know that there's one specific guy like a Jadeveon Clowney or even a Devin Taylor or even a Chaz Sutton, but I do believe there are guys on this defensive line, specifically at the defensive end position, who can wreak havoc and make an impact and make big plays and make the plays needed for guys behind you like J.C. Horn, McQuamu, Roderick, these other guys to make big plays behind you. So enforce bad throws from quarterbacks and to be run stoppers in the run game and on the edge as well. So that's going to do it for me. Appreciate you guys tuning in again. Sorry if my brain sounds like scrambled eggs. I have been moving all day yesterday and today. Finally at the home base in Columbia. Again, like I said, though, crap is all over the place. As you guys already saw, I don't have to drop the announcement. Steve Tannehill's Group Therapy, the first major sponsor of the Spurs Up Show. I can't really put into words how I feel about it. Super, super excited. You'll see a bunch of stuff rolling out over the next couple of weeks, obviously, especially as we get closer to football season. There should be some big announcements coming possibly later tonight, depending on what happens in about an hour. But there should be some big announcements dropping over the next couple of days as well about some things happening with the Spurs Up Show. And we're really rolling. Obviously, again, everything's kind of makeshift right now, but you guys will be in the know about everything. And if you're in the Columbia area, I hope to see you guys around. But overall, appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks.